Shalom. So, just wanted to take a few minutes to speak about some things that are going on and have been going on in my life, and in the hopes that maybe it'll help other people with going through maybe a similar issue. So, my family, about a year and a half, moved from the Knoxville, Tennessee area to Birmingham. I moved here for work. It was a promotion at work, but it required me to move. And so, in the process of that move, Yeshua had answered many of our prayers. So there's certain things we asked for in our house, and the house that He helped us to find. I mean, it was beyond our expectations. Perfect. It was terrific. And we moved down here. The homeschool support network here was great. My wife was very, very happy about that. The location we got was awesome. There were just so many pieces of the puzzle that just fit right into place that made it beyond any shadow of a doubt that it was God's hand directing our path, and that this is where He wanted us to be. However, there was one major aspect of our lives that was not answered, and that was my job. Because I moved down here with high expectations and thinking that things were going to be great and that I was going to be happy. I mean, I worked for this company for almost 9 years, and I loved it. When I worked for them in Knoxville, I loved it. A lot of the same leadership from the Knoxville area was going to be moving down here, so I'd be working with a lot of the same people I knew, and so this looked like an overall good move. However, when I got down here, a number of things changed at work. Policies changed. A lot of it didn't make sense. And honestly, it was really, really horrible. Like, just every day I would get to work and I would sit out in the parking lot and just dread walking into work. It was horrendous. I hated my job more than I've ever hated a job in my life once I moved down here. And I stuck it out for a year, and I kept praying to Father, like, Father, please, I know that this is not your will. Like, you did not move me down here to be miserable. And at some point in August, actually it was in July, end of July, there were a number of things that kind of came to a head to where I felt like that I'd always been praying, Father, if you want me to leave this company, please let me know. Well, He finally let me know. He let my wife know. There were a number of different signs that I believe that He gave to me. And when I was going through this whole process, when I was so miserable at work, the entire time I kept telling my wife that I believe that it was supernatural, that Father was making me uncomfortable at work, because some of the things that were going on was just not reasonable, not logical. Like, why would the leadership of our company want us to do this thing that made no sense business-wise and that sort of thing? And I really believe it was Father just putting this delusion over certain people's eyes with regards to my job that was His way of making me uncomfortable there. Because if I was happy there, then I wouldn't be looking to go elsewhere. But he gave me a sign, and then actually several indications that it was time to leave. And then immediately after that, I was listening to a podcast, and just out of the blue, the person speaking on the podcast went into this whole rant on, when God tells you it's time to leave, it's time to leave. If He tells you need to make a move, you need to make a move, that sort of thing. Which again was just further confirmation. In fact, at some point in the middle of this, I guess you could say like a rant that this person just went on out of the blue for no reason, he goes, now I'm not telling everybody listening to go quit your job or anything, but I'm just saying if you think that God's telling you to quit your job, then you should do that. And so I did. And so for the last 3 months, like I went and put in my 2-week notice, and I was unemployed for about 3 months while I was looking for a job. And I recently, this last week, got hired. Now, a young lady from the Yahad is looking to put together a prayer ministry, and so she contacted me and asked me some questions about, what sort of prayers would you want somebody to pray for you if they were going to pray for you? What is your, while you were unemployed, what would you, if you were going to ask people to pray for you, how would you want them to pray for you? And so in answering your question, I thought, this would probably be a good topic for a video, because when I really first started getting into, faith and practicing your faith and walking it out, not like at church where one day a week you would go and act devout at church for an hour or two, and then you leave and go straight to Denny's and eat, a Baconator sandwich or some kind of crazy thing like that. When people would talk about like God telling them something, it was difficult for me to understand what they meant. And I would ask them, like, well, how does he talk to you? Can you describe it? Like, how can I tell if he's talking to me? And the response was always like, well, you just know that you know. Or, well, when he speaks to you, you just know it. And I was like, well, obviously not, because I don't know it. And I'm asking that question for a reason. I think that comes naturally to some people. And the same thing with prayer. Like, I think that for myself, for a long time, I didn't really enjoy praying. Like, to me, it just sounded like I was talking to myself. It was like a one-way conversation. And it took time for me to really learn how prayer could be so fulfilling. And I think probably there's a lot of people like that out there. And my prayer life has changed dramatically, to where now just anytime I'm even in the car going somewhere, or like if I get to a destination early, I'll usually sit there and pray. And so I'm always praying to the Father for things. So back in July, right before I put in my 2-week notice, I put in my 2-week notice the last week of July. And so July 4th, reverse about 3 weeks, we were needing to get a lawnmower for our yard. We had 2 lawnmowers. One of them was still back in Knoxville at our old house that we were trying to sell, so we would go back and mow the yard every month or so and that sort of thing. Well, the mower that we had here in Birmingham broke, and so we had to go and buy a new lawnmower. So I got on Craigslist, I found a used lawnmower, and I'm driving to pick it up. And I'm driving down this road I hadn't been down before, and I came to this really cool little community just outside of where I live. And it was like, it looked like something almost out of like a Norman Rockwell painting. Like there was a creek running through the town, there was a dam, there was children playing underneath it, kids walking down the railroad tracks carrying, those big floaty devices and such. Going to go swimming in the creek. It was, the businesses were all like right up on the street, so you could pull up and there was a porch along the front of the businesses. People could walk down. I mean, it looked like something out of like the 1930s. And I was like, wow, this is a really cool place. And, at that point I was kind of looking for a job, and I started praying to the Father. I was like, Father, I would love to be able to like find a job somewhere like this, somewhere where it's not in the middle of a bunch of hectic traffic, and you could, have a nice environment to work in. So I went and got this lawnmower from the guy on Craigslist, and I'm coming back through that same area, and I actually pull over in this parking lot, and I'm looking at the businesses there and praying. I was like, Father, I would love to be able to work in this area. It's convenient to our house, and there's so many benefits to it. And so I pull in this parking lot, and the only businesses there was like a realty company and a adoption agency and a couple of like beauty salons and like a restaurant there. Not anything really within the field that I was looking for. I was looking for something in like project management. So But I sat there and prayed about it for a minute, and then I headed back home. Didn't really think anything more about that. Well, so then 3 weeks later, I quit my job, and looking for jobs for like 3 months, and then this lady contacts me about some job that I put in an application for. Turns out that the job that she was like a temporary staffing person, and her client that she was looking for a project coordinator for was actually in that real estate office that I had pulled through and sat in front of and prayed to the Father saying, I wish I had a job in this location. That exact location is where I got hired at. I had no idea whenever I applied for the job that that's where it was or anything. Just a project coordinator position, Birmingham area or whatever. So that's what I applied for. So when I went to my first interview there, I knew right away that this was the Father's hand. In fact, I actually went to that interview and was hired on the spot. And just there's a number of things about this job that are perfect. One of the things I hated about my other job is that I was always having to fight traffic to get to and from work. The location of where this is relative to my house, when I'm going to work in the morning, all the traffic is going the opposite way. So like I'm going one direction, and in the other direction is just bumper to bumper traffic. And then in the evening, whenever I'm going back home, it's the exact opposite. Like all the traffic is coming toward me, bumper to bumper, and I'm just, there's no one in front of me. I just drive home. I'm home in 10 minutes. So when things like that, like there are no coincidences. The Father works all things out for us, and anything that is a coincidence is just God choosing to be anonymous. That's all it means. So the fact that, and there's been a number of times that he's answered prayers like that for me that I've even forgotten about asking for. You pray for something, you ask for something, and then you just forget about it, and then 3 months later, suddenly this prayer is fulfilled in a way that's nothing short of just miraculous. And that's the way I felt with getting this job. He could have given me a job anywhere, but the fact that he did it there really spoke to me, saying that he was listening that whole time. So as far as the question I was asked, how if you were going to get people to pray for you, how would you want them to pray for you when it came to getting a job? My response is that in the Nazarene Acts, Simon Peter says something that it's one of those chapters in the Nazarene Acts that I go back to a lot. And so Clement is writing, and Clement says that Kepha. So what had happened is that Kepha was supposed to debate Simon Magus, and on the day of this debate, Simon Magus sends a messenger to Kepha and says, "Hey, look, he's delaying. We're putting off this debate for a week." So Clement is disappointed because he was going to watch this debate, but now it's been delayed a week, so now he's got to wait a week. And so Kepha, looking at us and perceiving that I, Clement, was saddened by the putting off of the contest, he said, "He who believes that the world is administered by the providence of Yeshua El Shaddai ought not, O Clement, my friend, to take it amiss in whatever way particular things are done, being assured that the righteousness of Yeshua guides to a favorable and fitting issue even those things that seem superfluous or contrary in any business, and especially toward those who worship him more intimately. And therefore he who is assured of these things, as I have said, if anything occur contrary to his expectation, he knows how to drive away grief from his mind on this account, holding it unquestionable in his better judgment that by the government of the good Yahuwah, even what seems contrary may be turned to good." So it took me 3 months to get this job, and things really kind of got down to the point where I was getting low on my savings, and we were really needing me to find a job. I think other people, or even myself, if I did not have my faith in the Creator, and if I was not sure that he had given me every indication that it was time to resign from my previous job, I would have been getting worried. But this verse gave me a lot of comfort is that he works out he is in complete and total control. Whatever happens is working according to his will. And Kepha goes on to explain that there's kind of this weird balance between our free will and the will of Elohim. So Yahuwah may have a desire for something to happen, but me as an individual, I choose not to be that vehicle with which he uses to make his desire occur. So like if he wants me to start this job, however, I choose not to go into the interview, well, he's going to have somebody else go in for that interview. Like his will is going to be fulfilled in whatever it is, but it is possible for me through my own will, because he's given us free will to do things that he does not desire. But the overall plan of the world works according to his desire. So even if in this case Simon Magus is putting off this debate for a week, Kepha goes on to say, Clement, this has given me an extra week to instruct you. So even though this may seem at first to be a negative thing, in the end, we're going to work it out for good. So whereas this 3 months that I'm unemployed may, to me, seem frightening or whatever, God's going to work that out. He's got a plan. And so it's our job to keep faith that he has a plan, to trust him, and then when he says go, then we need to go. And so how would I have somebody pray for me? If I was wanting someone to pray for me to help me find a job, if the world is going to function according to his will, then what I want is not for him to give me a job necessarily. What I want is for his will to be for me to have a job. So instead of asking the Creator to change, heaven and earth for you, I pray for him to change his will. Father, if it be your will for me to have a good job, then please help me to get this position. If it is your will that I start this particular position, please help me to do whatever I can. And I prayed there's been job interviews that I went to that I really, really wanted this job. I thought it'd be the perfect job for me. But even then, when I would pray to him, it was always, Father, if this is what you want for me, then please help me not to mess it up. Or, give me the words to speak, whatever I need to do to get this job to make it happen. But if it's not your will, then please do not let me get this job. Stand in my way, whatever you need to do to prevent me, because I want what's your perfect will. Or if you really want something, Father, may it be your will that I get this job. And even if somebody asks me on Facebook, please pray for, my mother's really sick, please pray for my mother to make a full recovery. Well, it may be Yahuwah's desire for your mother to die. She may be at the end of her life, and so he's like, okay, look, it's time for you to come home. So I don't pray for someone to make a full recovery. What I pray is like, Father, if it is your will for this person to recover, please give them a speedy recovery. But if it's your will to bring them home, to call them back, or as Clement says, for them to exchange this life or this existence for life, then please may your will be done quickly. And that's the way, if I had a loved one who was on the verge of death, I'd rather them either make a quick recovery or to pass quickly and to go home to Yah. And in fact, speaking of the Clementine writings, the way Clement words that, he was the scribe of Kepha. So he should have had a great understanding of what Kepha and the other apostles were instructed about the afterlife. And the way Clement reads that is that Kepha exchanged the present existence for life. So in that respect, we're not living right now. Like this to us is life. But when we understand it from what Yeshua's perspective is, from what he taught his disciples, when we die, when we leave this existence, that's when life begins. So I don't always pray for people to make a full recovery. I pray that if it's his will for them to make a full recovery, that it will be quick and speedy, and that they will know that he did that as a miracle and that they will come to know him better through the miracle of being healed. But if it's his desire to call them home, then Father, please let them be called home quickly and out of suffering. And that's what I ask when I pray for something of my own. Father, if it's your will that I get this promotion, if it's your will that I get this contract or this deal or whatever it is, then Father, please make it happen. But if it's not your will, because he knows further down the road than we do. Even in business, like if you might land a sale in, if you're selling something, you may get this great deal. But then once the numbers work out, you may actually end up losing money. So not everything that falls through your fingers is something good. I mean, he may have prevented you from getting something that was going to work out in the negative for you. So I always try to pray, Father, please, whatever your will is, let it happen. Whatever you can bless me with, please give me the blessing. Please don't let me stand in your way. And from that, you have to trust him. And a lot of what he's done in my life, I believe, has just been him building that trust. And fasting. I don't fast as much as I should, probably, or at least I haven't in the past. But I have done several long-term fasts. Currently, I do a short fast every day now. Like I started that within the last month or so, where I won't eat anything before noon. So every morning I'm fasting, and then at noon I'll eat like a vegetable and fruit smoothie, and then I'll eat something for dinner. And since I quit my job back in August, I've lost somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 pounds. Like I'm a lot healthier now than I was then. And that's something I'm probably going to continue to do. In the Didache, it recommends that that believers fast every Wednesday and Friday, the fourth day of the week, and the sixth day, the preparation day. I've started doing that. So Wednesday, I'll fast until dinner, after sunset. And so whereas usually I'll eat my first meal at noon, now I wait until dinner time, till around 6 or so, 5 or 6 o'clock, and that's when I eat on Wednesdays and Fridays. So every day I'm doing like a little mini fast in the morning, and then 2 days a week I'm fasting all the way till dinner. And I'm probably just going to continue to do that from this point forward. When I was interviewing for this job, I actually got the interview finalized on Tuesday. The lady at the temp agency called and said I was going to be meeting with the owner of the company that I was interviewing with on Thursday. So it was 2 days. And so as soon as I got off the phone with her, I said, okay, that's it. I'm going on a fast until I have that interview. And I told that to my wife. I was like, I'm not fasting. I'm not eating again until after the interview. So I'm going to fast for the next couple of days. Well, it wasn't 15 or 20 minutes later, I get an email from the lady at the temp agency, and she's like, hey, the owner of this company is moving the interview back till Friday. So I just got an extra day of fasting added. And so the 2-day fast became a 3-day fast. And again, I believe that was the hand of Yah, because the whole 3-day fast is biblical. You have the case of like Esther. Esther fast for 3 days. There's always this pattern of the 3-day, like the 3 days in the belly of the earth by Yeshua. James was actually fasting that entire time. According to the Ebionite gospel, whenever Yeshua was crucified, James started a fast, and he said he would not eat bread again until he saw Yeshua raised from the dead. And then so in the Gospel of Luke, where there's the two men that meet Yeshua on the road, well, one of those men, according to the Ebionite Gospel, was James. And then when they got to their destination and Yeshua revealed himself to them, that he said to James, brother, go ahead and eat your bread, because now you've seen the Son of Man risen. So again, you have this 3-day fast. If Yeshua was in the ground for 3 days, then that means that James was also fasting for those 3 days. So this whole concept of a 3-day fast is definitely biblical. And so as soon as I said I'm doing a fast till after the interview, then Father changed the schedule and made it now a 3-day fast instead of a 2-day fast. And so I was obedient to that. I kept my word, and I waited until after I got finished with the interview, and I came home and I fixed myself a meal. And before I even got finished fixing my meal, the phone was ringing, and it was the lady from the 10 Agency confirming that I got the job. But I knew I'd already gotten the job because during the interview, the lady kept saying, this is where you're going to sit. This is what you're going to do. We're going to have to get you, keys to the office. We're going to have to get you an alarm code and all this other stuff. So she had already told me through her vocabulary that I got the job. I went out of that interview knowing I had the job. It just, the confirmation just came maybe 30, 45 minutes later. So, and again, of course, all of this is just, me sharing my thoughts on it. You may have a different understanding. Maybe you don't see prayer the way I do. Maybe you don't see fasting the way I do. But I've seen miracles happen in my life when I fasted. I've seen prayers get answered. I've seen changes occur around me when that happens, and I believe strongly in the power of prayer. And if you want to look at the overall body of Christians, believers in Yeshua, if you fast for 1 day, you fasted at least a day more than probably 95% of the Christians out there. I was a Christian for, 35 years or so, and never fasted a day of my life. Yeshua, of course, when he's speaking to his apostles, he doesn't say, if you fast. He says, when you fast. So when you fast, it implies that you're expected to fast. Now, you don't have to do it twice a week like I'm going to start doing. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do like a 40-day fast, but there is something to be said for taking a 3-day fast. And it does reset your immune system, and it does help you as far as allowing your body to process a lot of the toxins that are built up in your system. And so it's very healthy for you to fast. Don't think of it as starving yourself to death or anything like that. So I pray that I've given you some things to think about. I hope that this has been a blessing to you, and that you're having a great and restful Shabbat. Thank you for listening. Shalom.